Welcome back to the Futsal First Podcast, where we dive into the people, stories, and ideas shaping the game we love. I'm your host, Jose Galindo. Today's episode is a personal topic and one close to my heart. For a while, I was coaching both soccer and futsal, juggling the demands, navigating the differences, and trying to give each the attention it deserved. Eventually, I chose to follow my passion and focus on futsal. But that experience gave me a deep appreciation for just how tough it is to do both codes well to the standard they deserve. That's why I'm excited to talk to a very good friend of mine today who is mastering the art of coaching both soccer and futsal simultaneously to a very high standard. My very good friend, Anthony Fico, is a brilliant example of how intelligence, organisation, and a clear coaching philosophy can allow someone to move seamlessly between soccer and futsal. He's not just managing both, he's thriving in both and helping players do the same. So if you've ever wondered what it takes to coach across two formats of the game, or you're curious how one approach can elevate the other, this episode's for you. Welcome, Anthony, to the Futsal First Podcast.
Hi, Jose. Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, looking forward to this interview. This is a topic that means a lot, close to my heart. Now, before we get stuck into it, can you walk us through your football and futsal journey?
Yeah, definitely.
Before you got to coaching?
Before I got to coaching, yes. That's a long time ago, shall we say. Well, as a kid, I was always out the front and in the street playing with the local kids every lunchtime and recess for sure, playing football. Maybe my Italian heritage had a little bit to do with that and the ethnics in the area. I vividly remember watching Serie A on SBS Sunday mornings with Les Murray. Fantastic. You know, I was watching players like Van Basten, Hullet, Rijkaard, Maldini and Baresi for Milan.
Can I interrupt you there? So that was a different time, right? It's not like now where you go on Google and you can see soccer results and all that. I know my friends used to have to call up a hotline.
Yeah, I don't
or
remember
look in the paper, or there was a newspaper. They used to look in the newspaper to get results.
We had the Globo, which was the Italian newspaper, and yeah, the results would be in there. But it was a fantastic effort when SBS came along and put it on Sunday mornings. I think it was about 10 a.m. And yeah, there was no catch up. You'd have to be there, and watch it.
No streaming services back then.
Definitely no.
We had to work harder for our information and for our passions, didn't we?
Exactly. So, you know, I remember that, and I remember my dad taking me to the local games. The favoured club then was East Perth Tricolore at Warhop Park. So many Saturday spent there, maybe a few rolls down the hill as well, as kids do. Maybe a little bit less football and sometimes up in the bar looking at the pennies with the other boys. And then I think I'd started actually playing quite late, especially if you look at it in the terms of nowadays, for a club at least. One of my friends at school, Jason, just asked me to come. You know, it was actually under 10s. And back then it was the first time that you would transition to the big pitch from under 9s. You'd be playing on a smaller pitch. Under 10s was on the full-size pitch. So I only knew 11-a-side. And that was at Coburn United back then, Coburn United Soccer Club. So I played there up until about 14, 15. And one year at Delhi's where we had a super strong team, some local kids that sort of went a long way as well in their careers. And at about at 16, 17, transitioning from high school to uni, sort of slacked off on training a bit, ended up at Coburn Reserve, so I could do that for another season, but with the studies it got too much. So then I gave up on the outdoor and focused on the studies.
It's a bit of an issue, isn't it, with there's an age group or a certain stage where it becomes harder and player retention in football and futsal, and I'd assume many other sports, it has an impact.
Yes, I see that actually in my own son at the moment. It's I think it starts now with ATAR, so even earlier. That's year 10 going on to year 11. If you're going the academic pathway, what they expect of you now is a lot more than what I can remember the hours that I put in year 11 and 12. So yeah, it definitely does have an impact and is creating a decision for my son for next year. So player retention is an issue, and especially if you're playing futsal and football, that's an extra time in post there.
That's true. And in terms of the time requirements of each sport, I mean, we'll focus on football and futsal, but futsal, most clubs train once a week with a short game, a little bit less of a time requirement from players, whereas football is usually 2 training sessions, right? And then the game's a lot longer than, say, a futsal game.
Yeah, well, football can generally range, depending on your club and team, 2 and very commonly now 3 nights a week, especially if you're in one of the JDL 1 or 2 teams. And game day often starts at least an hour to an hour and a half before kickoff. So you've got that lead-in time, plus you've got a game which can be up to 90 minutes or, 80
Plus,
to 90 minutes plus.
Plus half-time, plus coaches chat.
So there's a whole morning gone of your Sunday or Saturday definitely there.
And if you're playing away.
Exactly, travel time.
To and fro. So you can lose half a day on a Sunday or Saturday quite easily, right?
Yes, no doubt.
Plus the 2 to 3 training sessions.
2 to 3 training sessions, and of course you've got lead-in time, and the sprawling suburbs and traffic can have an impact on that as well. So,
can I say, just to add to that, I know with my own son, he's doing ATAR at the moment, and when he comes back from a training session after all the running and energy they expend, as you can imagine, it's very hard for him to settle down and start studying.
Yeah, that is a great difficulty. I think that's something that's underrated. That study and thinking does take a lot of energy requirement. So it's a difficult thing to deal with, especially with kids that have been at school all day, training, and then what stores do we have left for further study there?
Stores and focus.
Focus, yeah, definitely focus.
And at the end of the day, they're kids, right? So how do we find that balance for them?
They need to be kids, right?
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so where we get to, I think we got to Coburn City, if I'm not mistaken. You got to Coburn?
Yeah, I finished up at Coburn City.
I interrupted.
Yeah, I was played a season in reserves. We had a few young guys again who went on to some very good MPL teams and days, especially the Mercos. So had a pleasant year there. And then the rest of my football playing career was just 5-a-side with my uni mates, which many a fun time had there at either Lakelands or Leeming Rec Centre. And just with, marriage and families and travel, sort of football sort of fell away there.
Yeah, as it does, right? It's funny that you brought up 5-a-side competitions. You playing in the backyards and in the front yards and all those sorts of things. We all did that when we were younger. All small-sided competitions that you just did because everyone was on the same page. Everyone wanted to do it. You had passion. It was, I dare say, a little bit safer.
Yes, definitely. Back in the day, you'd even be able to play on the road, kick to kick on the road, and every now and then, every few 5 or 10 minutes, a car might come. And you just go off the road and then back onto it. I don't think you could do that nowadays.
No. Even going to parks, I remember using jumpers as goals. I mean, we've all got these stories, right? You put jumpers down as goals and you just play with your friends.
Of course.
No pressure, no coaching. Again, a version of a small-sided game. These are things that are missing, aren't they, from the unstructured play, the unstructured sporting experiences that some of these young players coming through.
Yeah, I think that's just our modern lifestyles. There's a lot of time pressures from families, and it's difficult just to get a group of kids together that's not structured at the moment.
No, definitely. Okay, so what was the moment you got into coaching? How did it happen?
Well, in my 30s, I had done my big travel and working overseas with my wife, and we had our first child. And as he grew, it was about 3 or 4 years. We would take him to Little Kickers and Grasshopper Soccer. Had a bit of fun there watching Ruben develop. And then it got to the year when he was turning 5, And I thought, it's, he's having a lot of fun. We can have some structured play. So we registered for Melville Soccer Club at the time, I think they were called, before they were mum, and ready to play mini-roos. But it just so happened that a few days later, Fremantle United had an open day, and I turned up there and I just saw a lot of people I knew, and I thought, no, this is the club for us. So luckily Melville was very obliging and gave me a refund, and we ended up at Fremantle.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was, and then turning up there, I knew a couple of people. The main one, I suppose, was Mal and Anthony Bosco, and I thought I'd mention, Mal was coordinating the mini-roos there with Marco Ricciardi at the time, and I thought, hey, I'm going to be around. I'll be happy to coach and help out if you need it. Of course, we're always clubs are always looking for volunteers, and they accepted and provided some great support and education. And then I turned up to my first session. Must have been a Tuesday night, I think, and about 30 little kids turned up from ranging from 4 years old to 5 going on 6. And I was actually quite nervous at the time. Generally in the past I hadn't been quite a good speaker in front of people, but I was a little bit surprised about being nervous in front of little kids. But I had some excellent assistant coaches turn up and managers, including yourself, Jose, which was fantastic.
I was going to get to that.
Yes, of course. The first time I met Jose, there was Ches Cecchi, Joe Piramelli, Anthony Bosco,
Wow, some great
Danny
names
Triscary.
there. Wow.
All you guys actually made it a great environment, and you were so supportive, which gave me the confidence to coach. So and to keep going. So if you guys didn't give me that support at the time, I might not be coaching to this day. So I'm very appreciative of that, and that environment also provided by Mal and Marco at the time. Yeah, it was a good experience to start.
Important to say that, yes, Fremantle United was a great club.
Yes.
Now Fremantle City Soccer Club, fantastic. But yes, I was going to interject there and say that I had no intention of coaching, and of course, you were my son's first coach. We were at junior goals. Rob Azevedo was,
Yes,
was a absolutely fantastic mentor and coach for Tristan. But in terms of structured club environment, you were my son's first coach. I've got to say, I did enjoy going to those training sessions and just chilling out, watching you do a great job. And I do remember the very session actually that you called me up and said, hey, can you help me run this? And that was, and you actually got me into coaching. So I've got to thank you, Anthony. Those names you mentioned, all fantastic people, and they're all really good friends. So it's amazing. It's not just the coaching that you do and the effects that you have on the players. It's also the relationships that you form with parents and other volunteers and coaches along the way, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. And you've mentioned it. We're still friends to this day. So with all of those guys. So yeah, very appreciative. And can I just say again, it was a great environment. And back then you would play a 4-a-side. So, of course, as the coach, you would only be able to coach, 4 or 5 kids. And you'd let your players go off with the other coaches. And it was so good to be secure in the fact that we had such good mentors and different voices at that time.
Yep, agreed. Okay, so you've obviously become a fantastic coach, very accredited. Educating yourself. I'm a huge advocate of coach education, ensuring that coaches are continuously improving their tools and abilities to be able to provide the best learning environments for their players. And that's something that you are a great example of. So yeah, could you, for our listeners, can you go through your certifications?
Yeah, well, I suppose I started learning by watching other coaches, and you mentioned a great coach just then, Rob Azevedo. So originally I didn't know Rob, and I sent Ruben to whatever Little Kickers or Grasshopper Soccer that was being advertised at the time. And I only met him after my second son started playing football or, doing these little football programs, Roman. And he was a bit of a handful at Little Kickers. He was very disobedient, wouldn't follow any coaching instructions, and my wife Vanessa had enough. So then, talking to a few people, I'd heard about this great coach, Soccer Rob, and I took him to his program, Junior Goals. And I remember it was at Pro Futsal Bibra Lake back then. I think Roman was only about, he was maybe 2 to 3. So Ruben would have just been starting to play outdoor at the time. And Roman did the first session and looked like he was, back to his normal self of not listening, doing what he wanted. And at the end, Soccer Rob would give out some stickers, and Roman didn't get a sticker and came over bawling to me. And of course, as a lot of fathers do, they're like, well, you didn't do the right thing, so you're not going to get the sticker. And I vividly remember Soccer Rob coming and giving some sage advice to Roman and letting him know that it was about the decisions that he made, which is a pretty big concept for, a 3-year-old. But, since that day, I'm pretty sure Roman hasn't put a foot wrong in listening to coaches and following instructions. So he's actually been a dream since then, and I think a lot of it is due to Soccer Rob. And, I took a lot from that as well. So I would learn from him in those sessions. Then at Fremantle United, we had some great mini-res coordinators, as I mentioned, Mal and Marco, and they ran their sessions for coaches. And we did also did our Football West accreditations, grassroots coaching, foundations of football, I think was the next one. And then it got, the kids became a little bit older and coming into 11-a-side, thought I should get, some further qualifications. So I did my C license. Some very good coaches, and anyone who's been to any coaching accreditation probably has the same experience. Again, you learn very well from Football West and their great educators like Chris Ola and Gareth Nathan, but from your peers is a great learning experience as well. Also, after starting to coach futsal, did my level 1, sorry, not level 1, it was futsal certification because there was no level 1s available in WA. Jose, you ran that one yourself.
I did. I enjoyed running it. And just I'll interject there as well. You mentioned about learning from the other coaches, and I 100% agree. I remember that particular course that I ran. There was some coaches in there that were completely outdoor coaches, had no idea on futsal, and I said at the beginning of that course that we're all going to learn something, including me, and I can hand on heart say yes, I'd learned something from the unlikeliest of suspects. Yes. Just some of the way that they see things and interpret things, and just it makes you realise how much clearer you have to be when you explain something, because you have to assume that things can be interpreted different ways. So yes, that was a good course. And correct me if I'm wrong, did I do my C level with you? Was I in your class?
No, you'd done your C level before me.
Okay.
So yeah, you were the trendsetter.
Right. Okay.
You were the trendsetter.
Yes.
So yeah, got my futsal certification. Then continued to coach, of course, outdoor and indoor at the same time. Also did some extracurricular programs as well. So not only learning from your clubs and from the federation, these included Juventus Academy. So they had a great TD, Federico. And also gave me the opportunity to travel to the Juventus World Cup. So that was very good. We managed to win the actual Bronze Cup.
Oh, excellent.
World Cup, shall we say, the Juventus World Cup.
And you learn a lot, right? When you travel and you know, it's a different experience, right?
Yes, yeah. I had a great experience. The kids had an excellent experience, and it's. Uh, I, I I thought it was funny seeing some of the stereotypes of some of the countries we played. Uh, yeah, Uruguay were very good at taking the legs out, shall we say, and some theatrics. And then the Polish were very methodical and looked very similar actually. Remember that? That was a great experience. I also ended up coaching with Football West with their SAP and TSP, which turned into Football West Academy. So we would do that Saturday mornings, and just also assisted the NTC Girls Under 12s, which was a new program under Andy Ord for their. They don't play on Sundays, but it's for an introduction for under 13s for them. And then I got the opportunity to coach futsal for the Western Australian team.
Yes, the Football West.
Football West.
State team. What age group was that?
Originally started with the under 13s, and I've coached that team for 3 years, so up to under 15s last year. And during that time, I did my AFC B diploma, again with some excellent coaches. A lot of those guys are coaching MPL women's and men's, including the title winners from last year. Some very good coaches, and I learnt a lot from them again. And just a couple of months ago, we had the fantastic opportunity of the first AFC Level 1 futsal diploma in WA, and that was presented by Bruno Canavan, the assistant coach for the Futsalaroos. That was a great experience and great learning. I suppose because I've been doing a lot of outdoor, or main focus was on outdoor at the moment. Even though I'm doing an indoor team, it was good to get that extra education and sort of different tactics that I wasn't thinking about at the time, and I implemented them immediately into my training, and I could see some players and the team change how they played as well. So that was very good to have Bruno here.
Well, it's the first time that the AFC Level 1's ever been held in WA. So it was a fantastic opportunity. And with those, I mean, I attended that one also. I had flown to Melbourne back in 2019, I believe it was, to do my original AFC Level 1. But the opportunity to be able to be in a room with 15 other local coaches, or 14 other, including myself and Bruno, it's amazing, isn't it? Just the network, the communication, the bonding that happens, the sharing of ideas. You're no longer from, of course you are. You're from different clubs. No one's going to take that away. But for that moment in time, for that period of time, you are all there for the purpose of learning and developing as coaches.
Yes, I thought that was great, and everyone had a great attitude. People that you might just see on the sideline, and maybe you hadn't spoken too much. Your opposing coaches, and then to come together and to have such a great camaraderie and support and learning from each other, I thought was fantastic. It was a great environment.
Well, sounds like you've got quite a bit of accreditations behind you. So it means you're the right person to speak to for our topic that's coming up.
Yeah, I feel like accreditations don't mean you're a good coach, but it does show intent. It does show intent, and it just shows that you've tried to learn and better yourself at a minimum.
No, exactly. And look, that's your accreditations, but let's talk a little bit about your journey through futsal and football. Obviously, you've mentioned some of the teams you've coached, but in terms of clubland, football and futsal?
Yeah, so in clubland, I've continued to coach at Fremantle United, which has transitioned into Fremantle City when they've joined up with Tricolore. And I would actually coach both my sons, Roman and Ruben, because they changed from playing on Sundays for the mini-roos to playing on Saturdays. So up until Ruben was under 13s, so that continued for maybe about 3 or 4 years. I coached both of them. And then what's happened since then is I would coach one son in outdoor 1 year and then coach the other son the next year, which is good. So, they didn't always have the same voice. And, one of them is not going to look back in a few years' time and think, oh, you must have favoured that son.
Yes, yes. Well done for balancing that.
Yeah,
Not easy.
I thought the balance, worked, has been working well. And then, I believe I started coaching futsal when Ruben was about 8 or 9 years old. So that's, I saw Jose, yourself, move into futsal, and with a lot of the kids that I had coached who were actually 1 year older than Ruben. So I ended up coaching the year below.
Yes.
And that was a new experience and was pretty much learn on the fly there. Although, rules aren't so much different to five-a-side, so it wasn't too much of a stretch. And then, I've just continued coaching futsal. Ruben has sort of fluctuated in the early years. He wasn't so sure whether he liked it or not until he was maybe about 13, 14, where now I think that's his preferred game. And then a couple of years later, I started coaching Roman, who he would have been maybe 7 or 8. Maybe he'd spent a year or two playing under different coaches when he was underage. What did they start back then? Was it under 8s?
What, futsal-wise?
Futsal?
Yeah, under 8s, yes. There was a period of time where they changed it to under 7s, 9s, 11s. But yes, for a long time it was under 8s to start with.
Yeah. So Roman started under coach Paul Simeone. He was a great, calm guy. He had
Another
great fun playing under him. And then for some reason, Paul had moved on, and there was an opportunity for me to coach the younger group. Actually, I think he didn't just move on. It was just that his kids were older, and Roman was actually 2 or 3 years younger. And that's when I took on futsal coaching pretty much full time.
Excellent. And the Coburn Wolves have been better for it. Okay, now the topic of our discussion today. Now, there are lots of coaches who wonderfully coach more than one code. And in this case here, we're discussing specifically coaches who coach football and futsal. Now, of course, there are coaches that do other codes as well. So it could be football and basketball, football, netball. But in this case here, Anthony, I know that I've done it and you're currently doing it. The coaching of 2 codes. Now, my curiosity started with, I know many coaches that do it. I don't know if many do it as well as they probably could do both if they were doing them individually. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about. How do you find coaching both football and futsal at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, it is something that does take a lot of time commitment, and I'm lucky that I do have that time. And pretty much it's been a negotiation with both clubs, as into training times and training days. Also with work, being able to get off at a reasonable time and starting earlier. So that's a fantastic thing that I have with my work, that I can start earlier and leave earlier, which allows me to get to training. So it's the negotiation, and it's fitting everything in. So I've managed to have 3-night-a-week training with my outdoor. It goes Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and we have indoor training on Thursday. And then game day for futsal is Saturday, and for football outdoor it's Sunday. So it is a pretty full week.
So it's definitely a benefit, would you say, being able to coaching both futsal and football, being able to schedule
Yes.
the training sessions, not necessarily the games, but being able to work around it. So that's definitely been a benefit of coaching both for yourself, would you say?
Definitely, it definitely has. Just being that point negotiator, and you can organise it to fit around your schedule, and hopefully it does fit around most of the team schedule as well. So in winter, there is the issue of other teams that may train different nights. So that does have an effect. But in regards to personally coaching my own son and fitting it in, it does help.
Mm. And we'll get back to that. Yeah, that's a really good comment you just made. So when it comes to your football and futsal teams, do you find that you have a lot of overlap of players? Do you have players that are in your football team and your futsal team, or?
No, I find there is probably minimal overlap. Definitely, currently, I have only 2 players who are in my outdoor team and indoor team, Roman and Jimmy. So I feel that's a good thing. It's a good thing for them, and it's a good thing for me. And it's probably a good thing for those players coming from other teams as well, that they can have a different coach to listen to.
Mm, okay. So that's in the under 13s/14s at the moment for futsal.
That's correct.
How did you find it when you were coaching the younger ages? With myself, my experiences in coaching football and futsal, they were up until under 10s, and I found that our under 7s and 10s, the players that I had playing futsal in my teams were pretty much part of my outdoor team at that stage, which made it very easy for us to schedule our training sessions, and for me to have the advantages to be able to manage not necessarily their workloads, but to make sure that I was able to supplement technical skills or physical requirements that they needed in both training sessions. So did you find that the same with yourself as you were coming up through the age groups in the futsal and football?
Yeah, in the earlier years, say from under 8s to under 10s, it's true. Probably all the players, or 80% of the players, were from the outdoor team. And yes, you would manage it, and I still continue to manage Roman and Jimmy today. So that does have an effect. But as they've gotten older, or the age group has gotten older, I've found there's been different players come in from other teams and even other areas.
Mm. And like you said, once they get older, they've got different training nights, which then starts affecting the schedules for winter in particular.
Yes.
So
yeah, we do have most of our sessions where only half of the Saturday team turns up, but we do supplement that on with train-on players who just want to train futsal without necessarily having to play. So we still get a good training session in.
okay, so like I said, you're one of the very few coaches that I can say does this to a very, very high level that I know of.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask you some questions. Your mindset. So what's your mindset when you arrive to a futsal training session or game in comparison to your mindset when you arrive to a football game? And in the context, what I mean by that is football, as we know, it's as you mentioned, it's a longer period of time. You're there for a longer warm-up. The game is a lot longer. The coach still has obviously a big impact on the game, whereas in futsal, it's an indoor venue. The games are shorter, faster. You can have arguably a greater impact in terms of your substitutions and how you manage the game into tactics, et cetera, et cetera. So is your mindset the same when you get to both?
I try and instill this into my players as well. I try and think that football and futsal are different sports. So I do change my mindset. There's a lot of transfer, of course, but I do go in thinking a different way. With outdoor, I have a setup formation, as everyone does, but I want the players to know, even in futsal, that the formation can change just depending on where the ball is, where the opposition are, what stage of the game we're in. And I generally set them up and let it go for the half. Being on now 11 aside, so you have a big pitch, you have less influence on the players, especially calling out to a winger or a left or right back. You're not going to get your message across, and by the time they even hear the message, it can be too late. And they may not even hear you, so you may just be confusing the issue. So I generally don't try to do too much coaching and calling out while the half is on. Of course, you do have rolling subs, but not to the extent that you would switch players in futsal. So you can make changes to tactics and formation with those players that go on. So I'd say with futsal, players are closer. You can make changes and adjustments very quickly, either with communicating to the players because they're closer to you, and there's only 5 of them. So there's less people you need to communicate to get a formation change or a tactical change, and just subbing someone on with some different information as well. So I feel like the coach does have a bigger influence in futsal, and I try and use that for the team and the players' advantage.
Yep. And with the substitutions when it comes to football, obviously players can stay on a lot longer because there are long periods of perhaps inaction. If the ball's on the other side of the field or the ball's gone out of bounds and we're waiting for it to come back or whatever the case may be. Whereas futsal, it's action-packed. It's a different type of game conditioning. So the players aren't expecting to be on there for 15 minutes and a go. They're sort of 3 to 5 minutes, 3 to 8 minutes, whatever it may be, based on the intensity of the game and their own fitness. So you are able to make those subs a lot more often, aren't you?
Definitely, yeah.
But at the same time, it means decision-making has to be a lot quicker.
No, I totally agree. A lot of short, sharp movements, changes of direction, intensity, explosive movements is probably a lot more in futsal. And having to think quickly, depending on even what the other coach does, if he changes tactics or has different subs, puts a different sub on. Yeah, definitely having to think a lot quicker on the fly because 1 or 2 changes in a team of 5 is a lot. It can have a greater impact than just 1 or 2 changes in a team of 11.
Yeah, for sure. Even things like a big conversation I have with new players to the game is that they're used to having those moments of, as an example, they've taken a shot, they've missed it. In outdoor, they can sort of kick themselves a little bit and be a little bit sad and walk away, not facing the ball, and you have those moments, right? Or the ball can go out of bounds and you have time to get back and jog back into position. Whereas futsal, you don't have that, right? It's you've missed a shot, before you know it, the keeper's got the ball and is distributing. And unfortunately for you, you don't have time to dwell, right? Well, fortunately, I'll say, you've got to be switched on, facing the ball, knowing exactly what's happening immediately. Ball goes out of bounds. It's not going 30 meters down the road, right? It's literally hitting a wall. Someone's getting that ball, putting it back down, and within no time at all, the ball's back in action. Obviously when there's stop clock, you'll get a little bit more time and all that sort of stuff. But usually when there's a rolling clock, everyone wants to play as much time as possible unless you're managing the game. So just changing that decision-making too for the players, making sure that you are focusing on what's happening next rather than kicking yourself for what happened before, all right? Do you have that challenge with your players?
Yeah, definitely. It's for me, it's can you win your battle? Can you win your current battle? And whether you've won or lost, it is, what happens next? So if you don't look for the next thing or the next action, you could be caught out. Especially in futsal, the main thing that we're looking for is to create an overload as quick as we can. As soon as you create that overload, there is a free player. That's when you can score more easily, in my opinion.
And the overload won't last long.
No.
So take advantage.
Always have a recovering player.
While you have it. Okay, now the technical demands. So as a coach, you're coaching football, futsal, they require different equipment. You're going to different venues to train, right? So that's one question in itself. How do you find managing, without going into the planning of the training sessions, how do you find the managing of equipment?
Yeah, for me, I'm lucky I've got a big garage, so I keep a lot of equipment at home, and clubs, especially Wolves, provide me with everything I need, so that's great. The goals are always set up, which is a good thing. So having full-size normal futsal goals is good. Takes no setup at all, whereas outdoor you often have to put a net up, or if you're lucky enough like Fremantle, you can roll out a ready set-up goal. So in that regard, I find futsal to be easier to set up. Having lines on the court is fantastic as well. So, pretty much I hardly use cones. I will say a line colour and that's your constraint. So that's good. In regards to Other equipment, it's mainly the balls. So they're different size balls. Of course, they have a different weight. They're harder to keep. Futsal balls are harder to keep in the air. I find that's awesome for players to have that differential learning, shall we call it, because it may be something different to that they're used to. So in regards to the setup for training, the main thing I find is just player numbers. So you've got to make sure you've got a few different drills or modifications to your drills, depending if you have a lot of players turn up, which in futsal could only be up to 10 players, but sometimes I've had to train 4 players. So that is, I suppose, the main issue when it comes to planning for training and setup.
So going back to the equipment, what I would find as and it sounds silly, but just that changing over, like with myself, I was training futsal Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I was training outdoor Wednesdays and Fridays. This is up under 10s at this stage, under 9s, should I say, under 9s. And just that continuous changing of equipment, making sure that you had everything you needed. I'm quite particular with my equipment, making sure that I've got what I want, everything matching. You know, my balls have to be pumped up. You know, that's definitely something that I know the players notice when you get to a training session and there's a flat ball. You know, I can just hear the players' mind going, this coach hasn't pumped up this ball, right? So I make sure, as a player, I would want the balls pumped up to the right level, not too hard, not too soft. So I try and make sure I gauge them right. But that's all time and effort, right? Making sure that you've got everything that you need for that session. Look, when we did the AFC Level 1 of course, I remember seeing a coach there who's a professional coach who does both futsal and football. And I saw him at the venue that we were doing the session. And I asked him, I said, so you're running your futsal session next? And his answer was, no, I've got football today. I'm here changing the equipment over. And just the look on his face was like he was exhausted, right? And he goes, I can't wait till summer comes and I can just focus on futsal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is a challenge, isn't it? Making sure that you do it right.
You do have to be organised. I'll say that you do have to be organised. And
yes.
it's and yeah, I have a different coaching bag. I have a different coaching bag for training and for game day for both codes.
Excellent. Now that's why you're on this episode.
Yeah.
That's why.
So that does assist. So whenever I load the car, I pretty much just grab bag, balls, and any other extra equipment such as poles or hurdles, whatever's needed for that session.
Not everyone would be in that position or be able to plan that sort of ahead, but that's what you're doing is fantastic. Obviously, the players will benefit from that you're organised, you've got everything you need, everything's ready. Now, that's the equipment side of it. Let's talk about training sessions, like scheduling a training session. So we know the planning that can go into a training session, in particular if you are focusing on a particular aspect of a player's development or potentially of a tactic that you're working on or a style of play. So how do you find the planning of training sessions for football and futsal? How do you make that work?
As part of your education and doing the different diplomas, you get to do some structured sessions, and one of the requirements is that you provide a number of structured sessions. So I have my own folder or data bank of sessions. For example, with outdoor, it's broken down into, I suppose, six main areas, which are, 3 in possession, 3 out of possession, and it's the different thirds of the pitch. So it's the back third, the middle third, and the forward third, and you would generally have at least a couple of sessions for each, and whether in possession or out of possession. So the easy thing is just to pick from those and to have a schedule where you would do at least in pre-season, you would do them in order, and then maybe you could change it up during the season depending on what development you needed in your team. With futsal, between the seasons, I've found there's a lot of player movement, either because they only want to play summer. So you've got the players that just want to return for summer. You've got the ones that want to play all year. And then you've got the players that come in. Sometimes they come out, but they come in and, for example, this year, winter season, I've got a goalkeeper who'd never actually played competitive. So a totally brand new player. So I find that I have to go through the basics quite a bit, especially at the start of the season. So the main thing I want to always focus on in both outdoor and indoor, but I suppose more in indoor is the ball mastery. So I do a lot of ball mastery in the session. That takes up sometimes 20 to 30 minutes of the session where every player has a ball. And then especially with new players, I'll do a passing practice that has a rotation, and that teaches the formation, whether it's a 3-1, a 2-2, a 4-0. They're the main ones that I teach at this age. So the passing pattern teaches the rotation. Then you've also got to factor in futsal, I suppose, a lot of set plays. So sometimes I may add in some set plays into the session, and either rondos or which aren't just your rondos where you stand in one spot. They're actually rondos where you can move anywhere and you have different numbers of players in up to 3 different teams. So more dynamic rondos, and of course the game where hopefully I don't coach too much during the game and we can see what's been learnt at training. So a lot of my futsal sessions are sort of not necessarily on the fly, but I will see what's needed for the team at the time.
Excellent. So you're quite proactive then in terms of your session, your planning of sessions, in that you've got a library or a catalogue of sessions that you will run and the players become familiar with and can grow and develop within that. And you'll have your, I suppose, different levels, changes that you'll make to those sessions. So that one session that you mentioned could obviously grow according to the players and the group's needs. Interesting you mentioned, though, I'm a huge fan of rondos, obviously with the Spanish heritage. I love my rondos. It's a huge part of my sessions, and not the traditional ones. It's important to mix them up. Do you do many rondos in soccer or outdoor football?
Yes, I do, especially for my midfield sessions, middle third sessions. So it's also not just about passing the ball. It's also about moving the ball to different areas of the pitch. So maybe transition rondos. Can also use a rondo where you have 2 teams on sort of opposite sides of the pitch, and then you have to maintain possession and actually use a different technique, which is a lofted pass, to get it to the other group, and the rondo continues there. So yeah, I definitely love the rondo as well. And it's not just for passing. I love to have it as directional, and also to have an end result, because it's good to have possession, but you want to have that possession with purpose. And the purpose is, the final purpose is to score a goal. So I do like to have a goal or an incentive to score with a condition as part of the rondo.
Yeah. Oh, look, rondos, there's so many benefits to a rondo, let alone the competition that it breeds amongst the players. But, like you said, it's your passing, you're working on your first touch, on your body positioning, and even, look, there's so many factors, but even like game conditioning when it comes to the defender in the middle. I mean, if you were to tell a player at a training session, right, I want you to run around like a headless chook with no purpose, they wouldn't do it, right? Or they wouldn't do it with the intensity of being in the middle of a rondo. So it works on their game conditioning, their short, sharp movements and decision making, right, for all the players on the outside of the rondo who don't want to be the defender in the middle and the reverse. Now, set plays. All right. Now, again, like you mentioned, set plays are important in any sport, including football and futsal, right? And I love the fact that you mentioned you do set plays in futsal, but correct me if I'm wrong. And again, when I was coaching football and under the guidance of ATD,
Yes.
are set pieces frowned upon, should I say? I know they were with us at a younger age, because with set pieces, i.e. corners or free kicks, there can be a lot of players standing around without a ball at their feet or without a lot of movement. Has that changed?
I would say in general, up to under 12s is frowned upon. But personally, I did do some set pieces with corners with kids up to at least under 11s, because I didn't coach under 12s. And it was more to do with short corners, and it was pretty much almost just set up as a passing practice. So, and then you can have it opposed as well. So it does flow a bit quicker for outdoor. You do have a lot more players, so you've got to be mindful of having a lot of players stationary. So I thought just having that continuous sort of movement taught them the short corners, like I had 3 variations, but kept the players all moving at quite a good pace. Whereas moving into 11-a-side, we do practice some set plays. We've done, from goalkeeper restarts, throw-ins, corners, but there is a lot of standing around in between. So the action is very limited. So you don't get a lot of repetition, I find, in doing set plays in outdoor. So yeah, there is that issue. There is that issue where in futsal, again, lower number of players, smaller area, quick restarts. It's amazing how many times you can practice the same set play.
Yeah, and it's not relying on a player chipping a ball into a penalty box a distance away and hoping they get the pass in, the cross in, hoping that someone gets a head on it, right? But how important are set pieces when it comes to football, the amount of corners that are taken. And I remember when we did practice corners as an example, obviously we do it on the the low key, the players would love it. The players absolutely loved it. So it's funny how it was structured, but it wasn't like, oh, you must have a ball at your feet or you must have lots of repetition. The players absolutely, one of their favourite sessions, and they raved about it, and we tried to fit them in where we could. Okay, so obviously a little bit of a different type of curriculum when it comes to football and futsal. So just do you find a challenge trying to balance them to make sure that the perhaps the facets of the game that you specify in each don't cross over? Or do they cross over?
With outdoor, you're looking to get the ball forward over long distances or maintain the ball over longer distances than indoor. So you do have to make sure that you practice some lofted passes or driven passes that you may not be practicing in indoor. So you do have to have a different shift there. Also with finishing, the types of finishing, scoring from outside the box can be quite common in outdoor, but scoring from a long distance in indoor isn't as successful. So yeah, I do have those, not necessarily challenges, but I do have to, like we said before, change my mindset to what we're actually training.
Now, the technical demands of each game. Do you find obviously you've only got 2 players that are crossing over now, but do you find other players that are in your outdoor team that potentially are playing futsal, or the 2 players that you mentioned earlier? Do you find there's any crossover in something that perhaps a technical skill, a first touch, or anything that you've been working on in futsal? Do you find that the players cross over, and is it advantageous or disadvantageous to the player themselves and the team?
Yeah, so with those 2 players, they get a lot of ball mastery with their outdoor and a little bit extra with the indoor, and it does show with their control, and you do see those skills come out on the football pitch. And if you ask any of the kids what my favourite skill is, I'm sure they'll all know it. It's la croqueta. Okay, so it's a fantastic skill where you move the ball from one foot to the other and just knock it behind the defender. And if you do it well, they've got no chance. And both these guys can do La Croqueta both ways, and they can do it in combination. So you'll often see them do one or two in a row. So they're both very good at moving past players, which is a skill that we want to see more in outdoor players. I mean, this was confirmed by Football West at just one of the recent coaching conferences that they had. We need to have better ball carriers, and I believe futsal is fantastic for that. And being able to move the ball with different parts of the feet. You know, it's not just outside, inside, laces. You got the whole bottom of the foot. And when you can move the ball with the bottom of your foot, you can make it go wherever you want. Just a little drag or roll away from an outstretched defender's toe can definitely make a big difference in 1v1s. So yeah, I see that quite a bit. And the other thing that is very beneficial is the passing in tight areas. So very good at passing and finding feet in tight areas. So I find that very beneficial for those players that play futsal. And just looking at other players that I see on a Saturday on a futsal court and I see them outdoor, I can tell without even knowing who the player is that they've played futsal.
No, agreed. Look, there's no doubt about it. I mean, you mentioned earlier that you see futsal and football as two different sports, and I couldn't put that better myself. And of course, there are benefits of playing futsal to help football players, and I believe the reverse. Not to such a great extent, but definitely the reverse. Obviously, there's a lot of skills that are transferred between the two sports. It's important to know that, I mean, globally, in Australia, there seems to be a little bit of resistance from some clubs and some personnel about playing football and futsal, and I'm sure there's arguments to that, which there are. But globally, I mean, we're quite fortunate in Australia where, you know, we've got access to a lot of grass fields, to a lot of resources to be able to play futsal. But globally, futsal is seen as a major part of a footballer's development. Have you read the Talent Code by Daniel Coyle?
I have, yes.
Yes.
The Hotbeds.
Yes, great book. And he has a section in there that goes on to discuss, you know, why the Brazilians, as an example, are so good at football. Again, depending who you speak to, that's questionable, right? But they've won their 5 World Cups.
They're the leaders.
They are the leaders of the World Cup more than any other country in the world. Let's face it, they produce. I mean, you mentioned about us working to try and produce more ball carriers. The Brazilians have got flair. You know, the decision making, their ability to have fun with the ball. There's no doubt about that.
I agree.
And he goes to show that just how much they loved how much they play futsal there. And indeed, he goes into a lot more detail there, and I highly recommend that book. There's a lot to take from that for anyone that's interested in coaching, sports, or just general information. And all you have to do is speak to a lot of people from Brazil where they don't play football from a young age. It's all futsal. Literally, you don't touch a football until the age of 10 or 11. You're playing futsal, you're developing. They don't have the resources that we've got here. They don't have the ample fields. But yes, the Talent Code, it goes into detail as to why are Brazil so good at football? Why have they got the results? Why are they producing such great players? And it goes into very specifically saying that they are obsessed with futsal, and they play futsal up until right from a very young age, and they don't touch a football. Indeed, Anthony, we've got a coach at the Wolves who his son is a fantastic player, Brazilian, and will not put him on a football field until the age of 10, because that's how he grew up. That was natural for him. So he'll be playing futsal up until, I take it, 10 years of age, and then they'll consider whether he plays football or not.
That's fair.
It's a different mindset, isn't it? It's a reverse of what we're used to here.
It's a different mindset, and it's a proven method with those 5 World Cups.
Look, I'm going to read a little excerpt from a article that I was reading the other day. So pardon if I'm reading it, but at the pre-foundation and foundation age groups, younger age groups, futsal is recognised as being vital for player development. Flamengo, which is a huge club in Brazil, has futsal within their academy structure for one reason only, and that is to develop better footballers. At the younger age groups, players solely play futsal with up to 3 or 4 sessions a week and matches from under 6. Says a lot, doesn't it?
Yep.
And these futsal matches are competitive. Now, I've got to say one of the biggest differences I found when it comes to futsal and football is, and this is our next conversation, is the differences in player development goals. Now, pardon the pun, but the goals are very different, right? So obviously mini-roos, under 7s, we were using the pop-up goals, which is great for development. But under 8s or even under 7s, they're using a full 3 metre by 2 metre goal with goalkeepers. So you can see there are clearly different strategies to develop the players at different ages. How did you find that working through futsal and football?
Listen, I found when I came into futsal, I don't know if it was a shock or just I wasn't expecting it. It was much more competitive. And there was a little bit more of a focus on winning. And the skill level that I saw was crazy at some of these, 7, 8-year-olds. I couldn't believe how they moved the ball. But in regards to results, in outdoor, results aren't published until under 13s. And in the younger age group, in futsal, all futsal matches, they're all published. Even currently, I think they're all put online and they're advertised on social media. So kids will know anyway. They know the score. Whether they've won or lost. And they've got to understand it's not the be all and end all is to win, but they've got to understand that is the focus of any competitive sport. The will to win, whether it's the sole focus, that's some debate, but you must have development in there. But not having that end result, I think, can dilute the players' competitiveness, especially as they come up to under 13s where they're playing for points and they haven't had that sort of desire and will. So I believe having a little bit of a focus more on the result is okay.
And you're right. Let's use under 7s as an example. Where we compete, they post the results on social media, right? Which is pretty cool. And there's a scoreboard, right? But obviously when it comes to football, not so much the case as you explained. And you're right. I agree. Players know whether they've won or lost, and there's nothing wrong with trying to win. At the end of the day, I don't think anyone wakes up and says, I can't wait to go to the game today and lose, right? The goal has to be to go there and try your best. I mean, indeed, some of the parameters we have at the Coburn Wolves is playing with focus and intensity and striving for excellence.
No, there's some great points.
It's not necessarily about winning. At the end of the day, that's sort of beyond your control. But if you play with focus and intensity and you are striving for excellence, you're striving for it, trying the best that you can for your development, you're working, you're putting all the work in, you're listening to the coach, you're doing everything you possibly can to push yourself to get to that, to try your best. That's where development happens.
Yes, I agree. And that's so the way I look at it there is what you're describing is that winning is process driven. So if your processes are right, then the winning will come.
Yep.
And like you said, it may totally be out of the end result may be out of your control. Okay, but if you've got those processes in place, if you've got the right mindset, if you've got the right structures, then the results will happen.
Okay, so another point I'd like to bring up in terms of the advantages of, look, I'll say coaching both, right, because we're talking about coaching here, but the same applies to players, right, of playing both sports. A few years ago, Anthony, I don't know if you remember, but the Real Madrid Academy came and we were both there,
Yes.
not as coaches, but as fathers of our kids who were participating, and we had a good chat to the Real Madrid coaches who were there at the time, and something they said to us really resonated in that a big difference in the structure that they have in Spain and in Australia was, and obviously there's a lot of differences, but a big one was the amount of games that kids play. And he asked us, how many games do you play here? And everyone said 20, 25. And they said, well, our kids play 75 to 80 games a year.
Wow.
So that's going to accelerate their development. Of course, it was almost 3 to 4 times the amount of games that we play here, which is huge. But then I mentioned to them, what about futsal? Our kids play futsal. And they're like, yes, you have to get more games into these kids to accelerate their development. And at the time, the seasons were 6 months, right? So the kids were playing 20-game seasons plus finals, so approximately 22. So they're playing another 40 to 45 games, depending on how they progressed, of futsal. All of a sudden, that gets us a little bit closer to the amount of games that they're playing there of structured competition. So that's when it comes to players. But in terms of coaches, Anthony, all right, the context I'm putting this in is as a coach, if you're coaching both, that means that you're also coaching a lot more games. And speaking from my personal experience, I have found is that when you go to a game, you get to see the opposition in place. You get to know where your team is at, give or take. And very quickly you can start forming ideas. You start getting almost like a sixth sense of how this game's going to go, what you need to do, substitutions you're going to have to make, matchups that you're going to have to make sure are happy, whatever the case may be. As you know, so many countless decisions you have to make. It's not magic. It's more intuition and an understanding. The more experience I gained, the more the games seemed to slow down, and you see and notice things clearer and earlier in a way that other less experienced coaches may not. So when you coach more games is what I'm trying to say in a way. As a coach, you're coaching a lot more games than other coaches. Do you find that to be an advantage? Has that helped your coaching when it comes to football? Has it helped your coaching when it comes to futsal? Having a better understanding of the game and connecting all these dots that you've been exposed to a lot more per year and over the years.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can definitely see things developing more easily. With futsal and the number of games that you coach, you can do a lot of it, not necessarily autopilot, but you can tell when something's not working, and you can make that change without even really having to think about it too much. Every experience adds on. Doing my own education and how much you use of it in your everyday job, it's not as much as what you do from learning on the job and learning from what the other coaches do. So you also see what they do and how they react to what changes you have made, what you're doing. So yeah, definitely I believe doing that extra coaching has made me a better indoor and outdoor coach.
And do you find that being that you are invested in both sports, that you have developed or accelerated almost like a sixth sense that helps you read the game?
I think, yeah, you do develop that sixth sense. Yeah, where you can even just get the feeling. I had it last night with my outdoor team. The other team was very physical, and we struggle with the physicality of the game. So I thought we were going to have a hard time of it, and after the first 15, 20 minutes, that's what happened.
And how did you read that? Was it just like a gut instinct? I mean,
it's the gut instincts. It's seeing the player's reaction. In fact, the assistant coach asked me to sub a player because that player wasn't dealing with the game very well, but I wanted to give him the challenge, so I didn't sub him. I left him out there, and I thought that would be a learning experience for him, even though it might have affected the end result.
Look, it's sort of the experience allows you to see a few steps ahead almost,
Yes.
doesn't it? It's just you've been there, you've done it, you've seen the multiple possible ending scenarios, and you know the player, and you can sort of see things unfolding just because of your experience, not because you're a genius. It's just because at the end of the day, you've been there before and you've got that experience, and like you said, you just can't buy that on the job.
Yeah, first time I saw a junior team send a fifth man, I almost fell over. I didn't know what was going on, but now I know how to react, and I've instructed my teams so how they can react as well. So that's just an example. You don't see that very often in juniors, but with the coach education getting better, I think a lot more different tactics will come in at a younger age.
No, agreed. All right, big one. What advice can you give to parents who are considering coaching or playing both? Can you do it well?
Listen, I believe you can. You just have to have the right mindset. In regards to juniors, especially at a very early age, you do have to have a focus on player development, individual skills. The wins will come. Like we mentioned before, if you have the right processes in place, they'll come. So just don't focus on them. Don't focus on winning. And if you've got a passion for it, I would say do it. It's the old saying that you never work a day in your life in your job if you love doing it. And in this instance, it's coaching. So if you find it enjoyable, go for it. From a player perspective, I think you get a much better understanding of tactics. You often have a different coach. So one of the things with my own kids that I want to make sure is that they just haven't had me as a coach. And I'm very fortunate that my younger son, Roman, has had different outdoor coaches. He goes to a football school, so he has some fantastic coaches there. So he's hearing a different voice. And at the moment, he has me as a futsal coach, but he has had other coaches as well, particularly Paul, we talked about, Coach Umbi, who is a fantastic coach as well. Roman absolutely loves him and his style. So having a different coach, and the other thing, it's having different players to play with. And as a coach, it's good to have different players when you're coaching outdoor and indoor. I find that I enjoy that more than having to coach the same players all the time, to tell the truth there. And then, it could also, with these younger kids, lead to a career. With futsal getting bigger, they may want to be coaches themselves. I know Roman emulates me as a coach. He does do some coaching at Fremantle, coaches a fundamentals program, which is kids of 4 to 8 years of age, and actually all the young coaches there, and I'd say all of them are actually futsal players. Just thinking about it now as well,
Wow.
Not necessarily for our club, but for other clubs too. So I don't know, is there a correlation there? Love for football and futsal?
Could be. While you're saying that, I'm writing Roman Fico down as a future under-7 coach. Is that right?
Yes. No, he
does.
does.
Coburn Wolves.
He does love it. He does love it. And funnily enough, he's worked out some of his own little tactics to keep the kids in line. So yeah, very very
Stickers?
proud of that.
Is it stickers?
No. It was mainly playing them with their friends or not. So
Wow.
if you want to play with your friend, make sure you listen well.
That's a power flex.
Yeah. So in my opinion, I think it's a good thing. You must have the time, and you must have the commitment. If you don't have the time and commitment, I would say just focus on one. And for me personally, if I had to choose at the moment, well, no, not just at the moment, but I do love coaching futsal. So if I ever had to cut down, I would probably just stick to futsal, especially if there's any work or family requirements to do so.
Yeah, great to hear. Yep, I personally got to a point where my passion for futsal far outweighed football, and I chose to go all in and focus fully on futsal. So I get it. So look, I was going to talk to you about work-family balance and how do you do it, but you've mentioned that Roman, your son, is now coaching. So it's a that goes to show that obviously you're doing a great job balancing everything, and that he's looking at you, not saying, "Hey, I don't, I don't want to do that." He's actually looking at you as a role model, and actually taking it. So it's a great reflection of the fact that you are doing a great job.
Yeah, even with Ruben, my oldest son, he's been volunteering coaching his little cousin on a Saturday morning.
Brilliant.
So
Excellent.
So personally, as a father, I think that it's had great effect on them watching me or emulating and implementing it in their own lives, which is great to see. And just having that confidence to be able to do it is a big thing for kids.
Excellent. Wow, fantastic. Now I got a question for you. This is a big one. What is your why?
What is my why? Okay, I suppose my why is that I actually love to see player development. You know, originally I suppose you do it because you've got your own kids in the game, or at least I did. There are some coaches that have started that haven't got their kids there, but I do like to see my own kids develop and everyone else as well. I was coaching at the fundamentals on Tuesday afternoon, and coaching the game. Just let the kids play. But I noticed there was one child who was always at the back defending the goal, playing four-a-side. I said, "Look, why don't you go up and try and score a goal?" He said, "Oh, I can't score a goal." And I just kept on encouraging him to go forward. And eventually he did get the ball in space and run it up the line and scored a goal. The look on his face was unbelievable. So that is my main why, is I love to see player development. And then moving on to the higher levels of competition, say, in the more competitive futsal environment, JDL, national tournaments, there is the competitive aspect and the fast-paced game, the fast pace of futsal. And it's the influence that you can have on a game yourself as a coach. There's been many games where I've had to teach a young team a different formation at halftime because they were totally getting flogged, and then to come back and win the second half. So even just having that influence and having the team develop in a couple of minutes at halftime is very rewarding. And the other thing is the camaraderie. So it's a camaraderie at a club level with the coaches. It's both outdoor and indoor. I found that's very good. And even with opposition coaches and doing the coach development and learning about other people. So that's been very good. And on a personal level, I always want to improve myself or, keep active. I see it as my form of exercise. I'm not a gym goer. I only like really exercising as a form of sport. And even though often you're not actively involved, it is, I do get my steps up often to over 20,000 on a coaching day, which is very good. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with. Yep, I agree with that. Good for exercise, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah, another community and the camaraderie that you mentioned, it's definitely it's a big part of, isn't it?
Yes.
Part of it.
Just being able to, even talk to someone else or bouncing ideas off someone else.
And it's not just the coaches; it's the players.
The players,
it's the parents of the players. It's the referees. Yeah, it's the organisation that runs the events. Yeah, no, I agree. It's huge. Very good.
Yeah. You're always learning. I like that.
If you had a magic wand, where would you like to see futsal in the short, medium, and long term?
Well, in the short term, I had this issue just with winter season, is just to have more players playing in winter, have more teams. So just having that year-round commitment. I know there's a lot of people, coaches, clubs, associations that say it puts extra load on the players, and I do understand that. But if you can manage that load, say if they do have an injury or if they do have some of these growing pains like severs or Osgood Slatters, which has affected my family as well, it's just managing that at the time. It's not something that you have to give up, I believe, and you can incorporate it all year round. And having those players in winter means that we just have more teams to play against as well. So that's probably short term. In medium term is some investment in indoor facilities. We're crying out for space.
We are.
I would love to have many more indoor facilities. Utilization of the indoor facilities that are around at the moment, whether they're in schools or sharing with other codes. I know that can often be difficult because I know basketball is crying out for more space as well. And probably even with juniors having a more structured competition led by the federation. I was involved as the F-League youth coach for Wolves, and I thought that was quite good. So, yeah, that would be a good medium-term goal. And then, long-term, wow, wouldn't it be unbelievable to have like a futsal stadium, to have players that semi-professional or even professional, and having a real top-level league that juniors can aspire to, and even coaches can aspire to coach. My wife Vanessa loves watching futsal. Sometimes, when Australia's playing, she's looking for where is it being televised. Sometimes it's just Facebook or YouTube, and so she just loves to watch it as well. So just getting that awareness out there, and I think the more people that play and more people that watch, I think the sport can only grow. Yeah, so that would be a fantastic thing for the future.
No, I agree. I couldn't agree more. And how great is it that the pathways are now well and truly open with, both the men's and women's, national futsal teams competing now.
Yeah, that is so exciting, and it's so exciting to have WA players in those teams. Players that our kids can just go meet during the week, either at training or at a game. That's amazing. I think Roman was excited when Tyler Garner gave him a wink on the sideline when he was taking a kick in. So that just having that is fantastic, and having awesome coaches such as yourself and Nestor at the top level is great. Yeah, it's I can only commend you guys. So yeah, well done.
Well, we've got and like I said, the pathways are open. Not only do we have our local competitive leagues, but we've got the nationals, which we're both a part of. We've got the state development programs now, men's and women's, which is coordinated with Football Australia to try and identify potential players for the national team, and obviously train them with the curriculum provided by Miles Downey, which is fantastic. And then, of course, the opportunity to be selected by the national team. It's just huge. I mean, last night at my training session, so as part of our women's team at the Wolves, we've got 3 international players.
Amazing.
Mariana Tabane, who represents Australia, but we've also got Isabella Flanagan and Judy Connolly, who are Philippines national team players, and who are hosting. The Philippines is hosting the first ever Women's Futsal World Cup later on this year.
That's great news.
Isn't it just amazing?
That is amazing.
That we have the opportunity to be working with these players, that these players have the opportunity to be experiencing this and then bringing it back to WA. So the pathways are well and truly open. So no, I couldn't agree with you. If I had a magic wand, I'd give it to you, Anthony. Yeah. As a coach, so what are some of the differences you find between futsal and football?
So broadly looking at it, I'd say it's player numbers and the coach influence, particularly at training. If we look at, if we go by Pareto's principle, which is the 80-20 rule. It's 80% of your time is spent on 20% of the outcome. So just say you've got 8 to 10 players in indoor, that's 1 to 2 players you're focusing on. When it's outdoor, if you've got 15 to 16 players, it's 3 to 4 players. So there's less time coaching an individual player. The smaller pitch, so your coach has more influence. Doesn't mean you're calling out, but you can see what's happening as it's a lot closer. We've got environment and space. Futsal is indoor. Players have limited space. That means limited time on the ball. They're nearly always under pressure. So that means you must have quicker decision making and passing and moving. In football, you've got a large open pitch. By default, the players have more space and time. So, and you're looking at more runs and utilising space more. So it's theoretically to keep the ball longer in outdoor with less pressure. In outdoor, you also need a bigger field of view. So you've got to know what's happening beyond your zone. Okay, where futsal, there might only be 2 zones.
Yep.
Whereas outdoor, you've got more. Skill-wise, we're looking outdoor. We've got aerial ability. It's probably limited the amount of aerial work that we do in indoor. And you've also got less or different use of the goalkeeper. So in outdoor, the goalkeeper is always an outlet and easier to create an overload, but that chance isn't available in your own half if you receive the ball from your goalkeeper. And then you've got also other options when you're going forward, 5th man. So there's different tactics in play there. So yeah, it's a little bit more difficult to play out from the back in futsal, just not having that extra player. Futsal has a high focus on player rotation and positional interchangeability. So I know I have my futsal team has 2 players that have played purely as defenders in outdoor, whereas in indoor, they're both my top goal scorers, 1 and 2. I want every player to be able to score a goal. And that may not be the focus in outdoor training for a defender. I'm not sure. Some places they may never get much of a chance to be shooting on goal.
Can I just interrupt there, Anthony, and say I agree with that. So I find personally, this has been my experience, the best targets I've worked with have been defenders in outdoor, in football, for a few reasons. Obviously their defensive abilities are quite high. They're very talented defenders. And my style of play, my target is always my first defender. Applies a lot of pressure. And it's not easy to do that position not knowing what's behind you. One thing is to defend with the whole field or court in front of you and you know what everyone's doing. It's quite easy. But you get a lot of players and you put them in that target position and they are defending the ball carrier and they have zero idea what's happening behind them besides obviously their own experiences and whatever's being communicated to them at that time. It's not easy. And they love to shoot. They love to score goals. In football, in outdoor, they don't get that opportunity very often. Very, very rarely do they get to go for a run and take a shot and score. Whereas all of a sudden you put them 10, 12, 15 metres in front of a goal, they love to shoot and they don't hold back. Obviously, if it's the best option, they shoot. I'll put an asterisk on that comment. And let's face it, when it comes to futsal training, how easy is it to set up an exercise where you are repeating a lot of shooting?
Definitely. In every training, I like to implement goal scoring, and I try and do it opposed as well. Yeah, so we get a lot of practice at that, and it's great to see these defenders unleashed.
Yeah. So you get that opportunity. So that's definitely a huge advantage. In football, it's a little bit harder, right? Because you got these big goals, and you got to get the goals out. You got to get the net on. People take shots, and these balls travel.
Yes.
Right. They go a long way, sometimes over roads or onto other pitches while other people are training. So it's a little bit more difficult. Whereas with futsal, there's usually a wall or something behind. And you can really work on your finishing, your shooting techniques. Yeah, sorry. You keep going, Anthony.
No, that's totally fine. It's just something that I have noticed. I have even in my team, I do ask my centre backs to go forward if they can, but I feel like there's a hesitation, whether that's just inbuilt in the position, or maybe sometimes if they don't have a player that understands they have to rotate in. Whereas in futsal, I definitely try and coach that if someone moves position, someone else fills it. So having those rotations, I know there are some outdoor coaches, especially in seniors, that do sort of coach that very well. But that's something that I say is largely driven by futsal. The other thing is implementing blocks. Blocking someone in outdoor is a foul, whereas in indoor it's good play, and you've created space for your teammate.
You've done well.
You've done well, yes. Yeah, so adding another string to the player's bow can help them a little bit in outdoors if they're not too obvious about it. I'm happy to see that.
Going back to the space you mentioned before, so when it comes to outdoor, like you said, there are greater spaces between the players, so you can get away with a poor first touch.
Yes.
You do have more time on the ball. You've got more time to receive, head up, someone's closing you down, but you've still got, usually, obviously depends on the situation, whereas in futsal, you receive the ball and it's very likely that you're going to be under pressure pretty quickly.
Correct.
So a poor first touch may mean no second touch.
Yes.
Or a very difficult second touch, one that the player isn't planning on executing. Do you find the decision-making of players, I mean, it's well documented that working in less space, with purposeful training, assist players with their decision-making. Have you experienced that?
Yes, definitely. It's having a tight space, having a rondo in a tight space. It's very difficult for players who are slow decision makers and don't have the technical ability. And you pretty much need both in these small areas. So it definitely assists them. And just having the repeated experience, number of touches on the ball in the small-sided game means it's repeated a lot. So it means that when they encounter it in a game, they're more adept to be able to get a correct resolution.
Mm. And with coach education, there is a big focus on small-sided games.
Yes.
SSGs, as they call it. Futsal is, to an extent,
by default,
exactly that. And earlier, you mentioned about the fact that, and I know we've discussed this, that kids aren't getting what we used to have. And I say this here because it's all relative to us. I mean, in other countries, that still happens quite a lot. In Argentina and Brazil, Spain, France, the Middle Eastern countries. I mean, kids are out on the streets. They're in the quadrangles. They're in tight spots playing these small-sided games. So they're still getting it. So what we talk about is quite relative to us. Let's talk about Spain, as I always will. I read a study that back in the early 90s, the Spanish Federation at the time hadn't won a World Cup. I went through a lot of hard times growing up with those.
Yeah.
I can assure you.
I'm going through those now.
I can assure you. So Spain hadn't won a World Cup, and they as you would, they did a massive investigation study into what they could do to try and fix that, and they looked at Brazil, as we've mentioned earlier, as to why is Brazil winning? Why have they got so many World Cups? And they obviously realised that futsal played a huge part in their development also, and Brazil had actually won, I think, the first 6 futsal World Cups, men's futsal World Cups. And of the last 10, Brazil have won 6, which is huge. So Spain looked at that and said, well, we need to integrate futsal into our development. If we're going to try and emulate what these successful countries are doing, and at the end of the day, win a World Cup, let's integrate it into our curriculum, which is exactly what they did. And Spain were the first nation other than Brazil to win the World the Futsal World Cup. So in the years 2000 and 2004, they won the titles, which was huge. Taking that title away from Brazil
Definitely.
was a massive achievement on the futsal scene. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Spain soon after went on their run of domination in the football world. So 2008, they won the European Cup. Special moment for me. 2010, World Cup. And then they won the 2012 European Cup. So they went on a huge run. And for me, we can't say that it's a coincidence. For me, it's huge. There's a clear correlation, a clear connection between their inclusion of futsal into their curriculum and their success in the football world. And Spain, listen, they've got some fantastic teams futsal-wise. They're huge on the futsal scene. And, like I said earlier, I mean, France have been extremely successful lately, and futsal's a huge part of their development. There's actually a great documentary. It was on Netflix, not on anymore, called Concrete Football. Something, if you get a chance, watch that, and it goes into the culture that futsal has in France.
Small-sided.
Yeah, and the amount of games. Again, they did that study because the amount of players that were becoming professionals from a very, very small area of Paris, and they looked into it. Yeah, so if you get a chance, watch that. And obviously, we know how good France is at the moment on the world stage. Argentina and Brazil, well, there's no arguments there how successful they are. So I think it's important to understand that even though they are different sports, there's a lot of skills and benefits that are transferable between both futsal and football.
I agree. It's no coincidence that those countries are both at the top in both codes.
So this all contributes to their quicker decision making and better execution, doesn't it?
That's right. And just having the technical skill assists them with that. In my trainings, I do a lot of ball mastery. I like to tell the kids, make sure you can get the ball to do what you want. Don't be controlled by the ball. So I do a lot of tight skills, soul control, small touches, 1-2 pass and move, dribbling in tight areas, especially to beat a player, because as soon as you beat one player in futsal, you've got that overload. I also like to play a game called Football War.
Okay.
So this is something that teaches you to look after your ball while getting a touch on someone else's. So it's like King of the Ring, but you're not out, because otherwise, one kid's out all the time at the start. So you're always in. You've just got to protect your ball in a small area against all other players. So you could be double teamed, triple teamed, could be getting pushed over with a shoulder, hands, getting knocked. So it teaches you to keep that ball away from opposition. And one of the best things it teaches as well is scanning.
How do you win that game, can I ask?
It's just number of touches on the ball, and then I do change it into King of the Ring. So okay. Once you get your ball booted out, you're out. But just for the last 1 or 2 minutes, that way everyone is getting a good practice under pressure. I find that's very good. And different types of finishing. We can't discount. There's a different goal size. Goalkeeper takes up a lot of the goal in futsal, right? So there's more fakes. If you can't fake the goalkeeper, usually they're pretty good at stopping. There's some quality goalkeepers out there in all ages. So, and generally the finishing is closer to goal, and different parts of the foot. Let's talk about the toe. So the toe is not a dirty word. It is a great way to finish. Quick, sometimes unexpected, and very accurate. We do that. I know some outdoor coaches are totally against using the toe, but I don't think that should be the case. Also indoor, we coach the flick pass. Sometimes you've got nowhere to go. I've seen many a flick pass beat that one defender and open up space for your team. It's probably something that you wouldn't do in outdoor, especially with the bounce after, because that's I do frown upon that in outdoor, but in indoor I love it. Outdoor, you train more aerial skills, crossing, lofted passes. We don't really do that in indoor, and shooting from distance as well. It probably has quite a low percentage.
Well, the goalkeepers are improving both for futsal and football, aren't they?
Yes.
Keepers have improved a lot. I mean, there's a lot of kids who are now training and actually are aspiring to be keepers, which is great. The amount of academies and goalkeeper specific trainings, academies that are available at the moment, who provide some great sessions, some great opportunities to develop keepers from some coaches that really know what they're doing. And then you've also got the fact that coach education has really ensured that coaches understand that you've got to include the keepers in your training sessions. It's not hard, really, like you said, to develop an exercise or a game with even a rondo can be finished with, a shot on goal, where you incorporate them, where we're expecting keepers to be more able to play with their feet. That's the way both games are going.
Yes.
So, look, there's some really good reasons as to why the keepers are getting better, but what that also means is it's harder to score. And we have to work on our finishing. We have to work on our shooting. And like you said, using all the different types of the foot,
Yep.
even the non-traditional ones. I mean, I keep thinking about that Ronaldinho goal where he did a toe poke and for some reason it caused an outrage across the world. Everyone's like, oh my
Crazy.
God, look at this goal. It's an amazing goal. And it's like, well, Ronaldinho, he started playing futsal first and then got into football. So for him, it was just something that he did growing up. It was something that everybody did growing up. And it's a great technique. There's no look, and talking about the toe poke, you can generate some power with minimal backlift. And let's face it, we spoke about the goalkeepers improving, look, physically and technically, and their understanding of the game. And the best keepers I've spoken to all read body language. They're all looking, they're not waiting for the shot to come at them and then they react. They're all reading body language of the player that's going to be taking the shot. And a really important part of that body language is the backlift, right?
Yes.
And you again, you see it with this is something that I found having to train football players coming into futsal is they're used to having all this space that we've discussed and all this time to unleash a shot, and they it's beautiful. You take a photo, it's gorgeous. They plant their foot and their shooting leg goes all the way back like a pendulum, and then it comes swinging with all the time in the world. And they're trying to do that in the opposition's D or in the attacking half, which, is where the defence is going to be applying a great deal of pressure on you, blocking, sliding, doing what they've got to do. So the toe poke removes that.
Exactly.
Of course, there's a bit of backlift. It's only natural. But when the ball's bouncing around in the D or it's on the edge of the D and you're being pressured, and with minimal backlift, you can generate that much power. Hard to stop. Gives the goalkeeper a lot less time to plan what they're going to do, to react to the shot coming through. And that's the goalkeeper, let alone the defenders. And if you can get that toe poke off, while that defender's mid-stride and has no chance of getting that foot up because they're actually mid-stride to block the shot, I mean, what a benefit it is to try and increase the opportunity of that shot going in.
Yeah, it's definitely a good tool on any player's arsenal.
So let's discuss resistance between some football clubs and other sports. How have you found it?
Yeah, I've come across this a couple of times. There's some coaches, clubs, or even parents just have a philosophy is futsal is bad for their outdoor game. And the common one that I hear is that it teaches bad technique. And I literally had a father tell me on Saturday his child played futsal in summer but not in winter. And he said, they don't use the bottom of their foot in outdoor. Well, I'd like to challenge that and say just have a look at any game and have a look at where a lot of players control the ball and how they move the ball from one side of their body from the other to the other side. And I would say that a lot of those touches are with the bottom of the foot. And the other thing is, stopping the ball. in futsal you stop the ball. Well, I coach my players not to stop the ball. I coach them to move the ball with their first touch, and a lot of the time that is with the bottom of the foot.
Into space and away from the defenders.
So I'm not sure if they've been instructed incorrectly. And then it gets down to the decision-making of the player. So whether it's indoor or outdoor, the player's got to make the best decision at the time. So if it is to stop the ball and they've got space, they can. But if there isn't time to stop the ball, their first touch should move the ball into space or into an area that will help the next action. So that's my personal views. I don't think that futsal teaches you bad habits. I think the players should understand that there are different techniques and different skills to be used in the right situation. The other thing that comes up is sometimes there's scheduling conflicts, and that's true. In winter, if you have teams that train 3 times a week, you often get the overlap in training, and that does happen to my team, but I manage that as well as I can. The other thing is with winter, you've got cup matches on Saturday. And so, the current Superliga setup, they do take that into account, and they do allow you to reschedule games. So
very flexible, aren't they?
So that is good. Just understand that there are workarounds, and it's not just that a cup match will conflict with your futsal game. And also, there's this thing that sometimes you hear the club might say, "Oh, that's our player. I'm going to instruct them what they can do." We don't want our players to be playing futsal. So I think that's a closed mindset. Hopefully, that's reducing. And I believe if you have the right coach, the right club, and set up, any of these issues don't exist.
Yeah, look, I'll add to what you said there. That I've heard that quite a lot, where players aren't allowed to do other codes, or football players, as an example, aren't allowed to play futsal. And my take on that is, if you are going to specify to a player that they should not be doing something else that could aid their development, something that they love doing, I think you should give them a long-term agreement. If you're going to say to a player in March, no more futsal for you, as an example, right? You should say, okay, that means that we are taking responsibility for your development as a player. And for that, we're going to give you a contract for 3 years that you don't have to retrial for us, because we're now taking full responsibility of your development. We're going to provide you with everything that you need to ensure that you remain part of this program. Clearly, that doesn't happen. So the problem I find, my problem with that is that player that has been told not to play, whatever it might be, it could be water polo, it could be futsal, whatever it may be, that could aid the development, has been told, no, you can't do that. But there are other players that are outside the program or outside the club that are doing those things, that are developing from participating in those activities. And then at the end of the year, when there's a trial, and that player that has not done it because he's been instructed not to, has to now trial against these other players that have had the benefits of doing whatever they felt was necessary to aid their development. And that player that has been playing futsal or playing water polo could literally get in and replace a player that hasn't been doing it. I think that's unfair. Not only has that player missed out on their enjoyment, but they've missed out on, let's face it, development opportunities to help keep them as part of that program.
I agree. It's some food for thought there, and as long as it's managed, and there's consultation between parents, clubs, and players. I think it's something that should be looked at more seriously.
Yep, no, totally agree. All right, your favourite moment. Now, as we know, I know with myself there's countless favourite moments, but if you had to pick one, what's your favourite moment in futsal?
My Favorite moment? Yes, as you said, there are many. You know, I've done many competitions. I've got to many finals. We've got to, won many grand finals and lost many as well. But I would say the best would have to be at my first national tournament when I was coaching the under-13s. The tournament started off, we had gotten off the plane. I think it was Sunday night. And, of course, we were scheduled to play Queensland. I think it would have been about 6 o'clock Western Australian time in the morning. So
Wow.
just so happens with Western Australian teams. And we got pummeled 6-1. I was questioning why am I coaching at the time,
We've all had those moments.
Yes. No, I've had them too, ongoing every now and then. But then, the team came together. They were then well rested for their next games, and they went through. They were continuing to be unbeaten during the rest of the tournament. Came to Victoria. I think it was our second last round robin game, or it would have been the second last one, and it was an afternoon game, late evening after we'd played an early morning game. So often they're difficult. Having 2 games in one day. The second game, can be a bit of a downer for the kids. But the game started and Victoria scored quite a few goals in the first half, and it was 5-1 at halftime against. So it's at halftime you get the kids in. They're only 13. What is the coaching that you give them? What do you tell them? So I just pretty much use just believe in yourself, guys.
Yep.
Okay. And made a couple of tactical substitutions and actually put my smallest player on. He had the second half of his lifetime. This kid, every time he touched the ball, it turned to gold. We were quickly drew from 5-1 to 5-5. We drew level within, about 5 or 6 minutes. It was a fantastic achievement just to get level.
I was watching this game, mind you. I was watching this game live streamed.
It's still on YouTube at the moment. The kids pushed on, and the final score was 8-7 win to WA. So just the feeling of those players and the belief it gave them in themselves was fantastic. So yeah, that was my best experience. We didn't get to have another chance at Queensland. We got to the semi-final and we lost to New South Wales, who were the eventual winners. But
that was a close game too. Also,
yeah, it was only 1 goal in it, and it was
scored in the last 20 seconds or something.
Yes, yeah, very. They had
in extra time, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't remember the extra time, but it was a very smart kick in from a couple of smart New South Wales players. So yeah.
One of those set pieces we spoke about.
That's right, set piece. Yeah.
Oh, excellent! Wow. Okay, now that is definitely a fantastic favourite moment, and I've got to say, like it's difficult to explain unless you go through it, right? When you are one thing's for that to happen in your local hometown and you go home and you go back to normal life, but it's another thing when you're away.
That's right.
You're on the other side of Australia. Everyone's away from their home, from their usual, comforts, and the team is galvanised, and it just means that little bit extra more, doesn't it?
It does.
Look, I'll go on to one of my favourite moments, and like I said earlier, there are so many. Right, the game gives us so much. The players give us so much. Again, it's an interstate tournament. This was when I was coaching both futsal and football at the time, and we went with our under-9 side, who was absolutely dominating the junior state futsal league at the time. We travelled to the Futsal Oz Junior Nationals, a great competition held by Peter Parthamos. Absolutely fantastic. Well run, great refereeing, great experience. We travelled, all the families travelled. So it was our outdoor team, it was our futsal team all together. We travelled to Melbourne, had an absolutely great tournament in terms of we made the semi-finals. We lost against a fantastic team called Melbourne Dragons. We lost in a penalty shootout. Could have easily have won that game.
Wow.
Right? Penalty shootouts are always hard. But the favourite moment was just the whole experience. It's not just a moment. It's you're travelling there, you're staying in a caravan park with your football and your futsal team, all of the community that we spoke about earlier. The players are running amok, as you can imagine. You know, there's a swimming pool there. They're having the time of their lives. Mind you, talking about the pre-game, we got there and, you know, we're running around the caravan park. Parents are having a few wines, etc., as you can imagine. We look at the clock and we go, it's 9 o'clock Perth time, right? That means it's 11 o'clock
it's
Melbourne time, right? And we've got a game tomorrow morning at like 6 o'clock our time, right? So, and these kids are running around the car. So, but either way, you know, we ended up having a fantastic tournament, and we all come back with absolutely brilliant memories that you bring back into your local competition, back into the football team. And it's just like those memories are just amazing. It's just like you look back and it's not a moment as such, or it's just the whole experience. So that's something that coaching two codes can give you, where it just goes on and you have that relationship where, you know, we had one player in particular drive.
Wow.
Right to Melbourne.
That's commitment.
Who is obviously at the Wolves now, Lucas Schwartz. They drove over and they got there for our first training session. Like, we hired the court for it, and they literally had just got there from their long drive across Australia. Didn't have shin pads because they were still stuck in the luggage on top of the car. I mean, you know, they're just memories that I say you can't buy them. They just you know, like, it's just wow, and they keep giving. So the advantages and benefits of coaching both teams, geez, they're it's hard to quantify, isn't it?
No, I agree. And having going overseas with teams, going interstate with teams, it's an unbelievable experience for those kids. And as a coach, it was an unbelievable experience for me. You know, going to Juventus and the national championships, and any of those kids I've coached, they will always come up to you whenever you see them in an opposition team, wherever you see them on the street. It's a fantastic experience, and it's a good feeling when those kids come up to you as well, just to say hello and show you that respect. No,
totally agree. And it's I'll tell you what, I don't know if you've experienced this yet, but you know, when you coach a player who you had to obviously was quite young at the time, and then you see them 10, 12 years later, and they are towering over you, and with that excitement of coming over to say hello to you, and you're actually getting a sore neck looking at them. Yes. that is a really that's yeah.
I definitely feel like I've been shrinking.
Well, yeah, it's a great moment. Yeah, they're great moments when you see that. And even a couple of weeks ago, just speaking to a player who I had coached as an under-7, as an example, and we're talking like friends. You know, we're joking around and stuffing around. And, it's definitely, coaching gives back in a lot of ways.
Yes, I agree.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Anthony, for being on this episode of the Futsal First Podcast. You are a great example of how a coach can find the perfect balance between coaching two sports, in your case, football and futsal. And I would like to thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience.
Thanks, Jose. It's been a great experience, and it's always good to have a chat with you. It's always enlightening.
It is.
Thank you
and
very
a coffee.
much. Definitely.
All right. Thank you so much, Anthony. And I've got to thank you as well for getting me into coaching. You were definitely the, as we mentioned earlier, the spark that got me involved. So I'm very, very grateful.
No, that was a great time.
And of course, thank you to all our listeners for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We've got more great conversations coming your way, so stay tuned. Until next time, vamos!